Because we're starting back from the Mishnah. Yeah, we're ready. Stop. Let it roll. Do you let Yehuda touch the video camera, Albert?
No. Okay.
Okay. Rabotai, big Mishnah, big stuff. Yud Zayin Amud Bet. Albert, you press. We're recording. Let's go. Mishnah says, Bet Shammai Omrim, Bet Shammai says, En shorin dayo v'samanim v'karshinim. You can't soak dayo. Dayo, they used to take, in order to make dayo, they would take the soot of a flame. Rashi explains in Perek Bameh Madlikin. The Gemara says, Kol Ashrafim Yafin L'Dio. I believe it's on Chaf Aleph. Where is it? No. The Gemara says maybe Chaf Dalet. Kol Ashrafim. No, it's on Chaf Gimel. Kol Ashrafim Yafin L'Dio. So the Gemara asks for what? Kol Ashmanim Yafin L'Dio Legabel. או לעשן, רש"י, מצאתי בתשובת הגאונים שמעשנים כלי זכוכית בעשן. You smoke up a glass with soot. בעשן שמן זית, with the soot that comes from a shemen zayit candle. עד שמשחיר, right? You ever hold a cup on top of a glass, on top of a candle? What does it get? The bottom gets all black. That's like the soot. And then sometimes some people will tell you that on top of the candles in the house, on the ceiling, there's like a black spot. Because all the soot went up there. Vegorer hashachar. Soot, that's the black stuff. That black stuff that you get. Yeah. Vegorer hashachrurit. You scrape it off. Venotem bo shemen kem'a. You put a little bit of oil. Umigabel bo. And you mix it. Umiyabesho b'hama. You dry it in the sun. And then you scrape that into the water, you mix it, and you have dio. So over here, we're talking en shorin dio lechaora. You're soaking lechaora. What's bothering him? What's bothering him? Bet Shammai Omrim, En Shorin Diyo V'Samanim. Let him take care of it if he wants. En Shorin Diyo V'Samanim V'Karshinim. Ela Kedei Sheyishoru Mi'Be'od Yom. U'Betelel Matirim. Take him off. U'Betelel Matirim. Kabod. En Shorin Diyo V'Samanim V'Karshinim. En shorin diyo v'samanim v'karshinim. Ela kedei sheyishoru mi'be'od yom. U'betelel matirim. So the diyo you're soaking the soot. You're soaking the whatever things you're making into diyo. You're soaking them, and they're going to take in the water, and they become some sort of a thick paste. V'samanim. You're soaking the spices that they used to use to make dyes. There's certain organic things that they grow, and they use them to make dye. So they soak it in the dye, and it seems that it becomes thick, because the Gemara is going to say the isur is lash. Karshinim is called vetch, some sort of vegetable that they would soak it for the animals to eat, and I guess it would become like a thick porridge or a paste. Ela kedei sheyishoru mi'be'od yom. So Bet Shammai says you can only put it in the water if it will become into this paste already from before Shabbat. U'betelel matirim. Betelel says mutar. I don't care what happens after you put it in. Your involvement is only the putting of it in. I don't care what happens after, like we said today in the halacha. Bet Shammai omrim en notnim unin shel pishtan letoch hatanur ela kedei sheyavhilu. Bet Shammai says you're not allowed to put the stalks of pishtan into the oven. Ela kedei sheyavhilu mi'be'od yom. Has to get heated up before Shabbat. They would put them in the oven, it seems, in order to bleach them. When it will heat up in the oven, there would be some sort of a reaction, it bleaches them. You're not allowed to put wool into a pot of dye, unless the dye will take before Shabbat. Betelel matirim, Betelel says it's okay. Bet Shammai Omrim. Bet Shammai says, Em porsin misudot haya ofot v'dagim. Bet Shammai says, you're not allowed to spread nets to catch wild animals and birds and fish. Ela kedeshi yitzua. And squirrels. Ela kedeshi yitzodu mi be'od yom. They have to be trapped before Shabbat. Ubet Hillel matirim. Bet Hillel says it's mutar. So there's a very interesting Tosafot. Once we're here, very interesting Tosafot says, Em porsi mitzudot. Afal gav, de b'Shabbat nami impires mitzudo eno hayav hatat, she'enu yodea im yatzud im lav. Tosafot says, if you spread a net on Shabbat, you're also not hayav. Why? Seemingly, he says, you don't know if you're going to, what's it called? You don't know if you're going to catch. So what's he saying? It's hatra'at safek. Either he's saying you're not sure if you're going to catch and it's hatra'at safek, or hatra'at safek is only legabe chiyuv of skila, legabe chatat, lechaura doesn't apply. So many aharonim learn that Tosafot says, since when I put it down, I don't know if it's going to happen, so it's like a grama. Since it's happening later, it might be like considered begeded grama, because the catching is happening later. But he says, Mikol makom gazru, lifros mitzuda, they said you can't spread it on Friday. Tepe'amim ati lideh hayuv hatat. Sometimes if you spread it on Shabbat, it will be an isur deoraita. Kegon sheb'shat perisato yilkod. If you're spreading it in such a way that right after you spread it, it catches, that would be a chiyuv chatat. Tahachi katani betosefta. Hapores mitzuda lebehema. If you spread it and it comes in, Tosfot understands, if you spread it and it comes in right away, you're hayav. Seems like if it doesn't happen right away, even though it caught you patur. Many aharonim want to say the reason why you're patur is because it's a gerama. So they therefore define a gerama as anything that you do and it happens with a delayed reaction. They want to say it's a gerama. Not all the aharonim agree with that, but that's one of the standard definitions of gerama is when I do something and it happens delayed, not because of my koch, it just happens later. And there's another chidush in this Tosfot, or another thing that you see is that it seems that the reason of Bet Shammai, they gozer if you do it on Friday and it finishes on Shabbat, is because gezerah that you might come to do it on Shabbat. A person won't differentiate between starting on Friday and starting on Shabbat. That's why Tosfot says, if you did it on Shabbat, you'd be patur, so why are you going to make a gezerah? Okay. The Gemara continues. Bet Shammai omrim, Bet Shammai says, En mochrim lenochri. You're not allowed to sell to a goy, ve'en to'anim imo, and you can't load on him, ve'en magbihin alav, and you can't help him carry things and put him on top of him. Oh, it's pretty similar. Unless he could get, it's like a backwards lashon almost. Unless the place he's going to is close by. Rashi, to'anim imo ala hamor velo magbiim alav masui al ketefo. Correct. The reason is it looks like you're helping him to carry on Shabbat. Even though I'm loading it before Shabbat, if it's clear from where he's going that he's not going to get there before Shabbat, so over here it's a little different. It looks like I'm telling him, or I'm helping him, or I want him to carry for me on Shabbat. Even though it's for him, it might look like it's for you. Bet Hillel matirim. Bet Hillel says it's okay. Bet Shammai omrim. Bet Shammai says en notnim orot le'abedan velo kelim lekobes nochri. Bet Shammai says you have skins that you got from your shechita. You want to give it to the tanner, and you'll tell him tan them. I'm not telling you when to tan them, right? Tan them. Take care of these. Or I have shirts. This we could relate to. You have shirts that need to be cleaned. You go on Friday, right before Shki'ah, and you give them to the cleaners. You tell them, here, clean them. He might do them on Shabbat. He might not. I don't know when he's going to do them. It's probable he's going to do them on Shabbat, but I didn't tell him to. So Bet Shammai says you can't give them to the cleaners if they might do them on Shabbat. Right? Bet Shammai says you have to give it to them early enough that he could do it before Shabbat. Finish it before Shabbat. Ubekulan, and in all these cases, betelel matirim im hashemesh. Betelel allows it with the sun. Meaning, if there's sun, you can give it. If there's no sun, you can't give it. Once the sun sets, you can't give it to him. Why? Because it's Shabbat. What's the big deal? You're not, different reason, because you're not allowed to give it to him. Amar, this Im HaShemesh makes big problems in other places. Why? Because against Bet Shammai. Okay, meaning, but he's telling you there's no limit on Friday. As long as it's Friday, you can give it to him.
Even if it's a second before.
Right. Amar Rashbag says, Nohagim hayu shel bet Abba. My father's family was noheg shayu notnim kle lavan lekobes nochri. They would give white clothing to a goy washerman shelosha yamim kodem la Shabbat. Soli, you have Gemarot on the bottom over there, and there's a case because Zuka is looking, right? Lekobes nochri shlosha yamim kodem la Shabbat. 3 days before Shabbat. Why? Because the white clothing, it's much harder to get them white. It took 3 days of soaking and whatever to get them white. So they were mahmir like who? Like Bet Shammai. Rashi. Shehu kasher lechabes, v'tzarich gimul yamim, u'mahmirim al atzman kebet Shammai. They mahmir on themselves like Bet Shammai. V'shavin elu ve'elu, Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel agree, sheto'anim korot bet habad v'igulei agat. That you're allowed to load up korot bet habad, the olive press. They used to Soli, bring the Mishnayot Shabbat over there with the blue. They used to load it up with so lying down right there. When they wanted to squeeze the olives, so they would take baskets, fill them with olives, and then they would have a very heavy beam that they would put on top of it, and that would squeeze out the olive oil slowly the whole Shabbat. Here we have some nice pictures of all this stuff.
What are they saying, that we don't hold the Shirita Kelim? That's what
Oh, wait, we'll see. No, they clearly do hold. So here's a case of loading up the Korah. Here's your olives in these baskets. You have this beam with a long weight, and it's pushing down on the olives, and the olive oil is coming out into the thing. So you could load that up before Shabbat, and the olive oil is coming out the whole Shabbat. Over here you have, that's something else. Here's the igulei agat. They would put round weights on top of the crushed grapes, and the rest of the wine would come out. Let's see. You're not doing anything after that. So over there, Bet Shammai agrees it's mutar, amazingly, right? Everything so far, we had a list.
Well, the other ones were goy. Yeah,
What? Well, goy. En shurim diyo. We had a little intermission of goyim. En shurim diyo, samanin, karshinim, unim shel pishtan letoch hatanur, porsim mitzudot haya ve'ofim. All those things, no goy involvement. The thing is happening by itself. Yet Bet Shammai said you're not allowed to do it. Over here, when you're putting this stuff in the press, Bet Shammai is saying it's mutar. Manishtana elu me'elu. So that's Rashi's question. Sheto'anim et hazetim. You're allowed to load up the olives bekorot betabad, with the beam of the olive press. Ve'et ha'anavim, and you could load up the grapes be'igulei agat, with the round weights of the gat. Shelo hayu otzrim otam begalgal kemo shelanu. They didn't press them with a wheel like we do. Ela to'anim otan bekorot kevedim. They would load them up with heavy beams. Vehaneh de gat, the ones that they press in the gat, kiruyi kari igulim, the ones they use in the grapes, is called rounds. Shayu dapim avim, they were heavy boards. Asuyin ke igulin, made in a round shape. Veshavin, Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel agree. Sheto'anim otami be'od yom, you could load them up before Shabbat. V'amashkeh holech vazav kol Shabbat, and the juice continues to flow the whole Shabbat. Ubigmara parich mai shena de la pligi Bet Shammai beha. Why doesn't Bet Shammai argue on this? Umifaresh, and it explains, mishum di'inami avid lehu b'Shabbat leke hiyuv hatat. Even if he would do it on Shabbat, it wouldn't be hayav. Pressing is a melacha. Let's see. Let's let Rashi talk. Dechi amrinan sechitat zetim va'anavim av melacha. When do we say that crushing olives and grapes is an av melacha in Perek Chabit? Hanemile bezetim va'anavim shelo risekan mi be'od yom. That's with grapes and olives that weren't crushed before Shabbat. Dehavale mefarek davar mimasao hagadel betocho v'hi toleda dedash. You're unloading something from what grew in it, and that's a toladav dash. By dash, it's a toladav dash. Dash is an av. Dash is when you have a wheat kernel, and there's a chaff around it. So inside of the chaff, there's a wheat kernel. I take the kernel and I crush it in order to sort of break off the shell from the wheat kernel that's inside. So now I'm able to separate it. So the system was they would dash it, they would crush it, and then after they crushed it, they would throw it up, and the wind would separate the chaff from the wheat berry. But the process of unloading one from the other, that's called dash. Yeah, I'm disconnecting it. So I'm disconnecting ochel from psolet. I'm disconnecting one thing from another, as opposed to slicing a piece of bread when I'm disconnecting bread from bread. Right? So now when I take, let's say a cow, leave a cow. When I take grapes and I squeeze it, so I'm disconnecting the liquid from the food. I'm taking one type out of another type. When I squeeze the olive, I'm taking the liquid from the solid, from the pulp. I'm taking a mashkeh from an ochel. So that's considered mefarek. I'm unloading a toladav dash. Aval hacha, over here, en notnim kora al gabe zetim. They don't put the kora on top. Ad shetohanan techila, till he grinds it first berechaim. V'chen anavim dorchim otam techila. So here you have the beautiful pictures in our picture book. Let's see. Here you see, he says first they tochen the zetim. First they grind the zetim, and then they put them in here. And then they dorech. First they dorech, right? They do the foot thing with the olives, and then they put them in there. So at that point, once it's already crushed, the oil is really out. It just needs a little help to flow out. So I'm not really unloaded. It's unloaded. I'm just helping it come out.
They already took out different oil. This is the pomace that they're getting now.
But that oil is already already separated by the crushing. It's already separated. It's going to come out by itself. Doesn't need help. But the pressing, it just speeds it up, and that's not considered. You're not hayav for that. Ad shetohanan techila betril beregel ubelav kora nami mashke nafik mimela. Without the beam, it's going to come out. Ela delo nafik shapir kihash, that doesn't come out so good like now. Velo dami lidash, therefore it's not considered dash. So that's why Bet Shammai agrees. Since even if you would put it in on Shabbat, you wouldn't be chayav, it won't be derabanan. So we don't make a gezerah Friday atu Shabbat.
So if you make karev the thing from happening, that's only a derabanan?
That's what it seems to say over here. So let's see. Man tana. It's not. I don't know that you make karev. It's going to happen anyway.
Right, it's going to happen anyways. That's
By bishul we say it's chayav. I hear your question. I don't know. Man tana netinat mayim lidyo zuhi shriatan. So now the Gemara is going all the way back to the first case. En shorin diyo. So we're saying that by soaking diyo, there has to be an isur deoraita, right? Even though all I'm doing is pouring the water on top of the various stuff, the ingredients of the diyo. Man tana netinat mayim lidyo zuhi shriatan. That's already considered a ma'aseh of soaking it. And l'chaura, it's considered lash. That's what the sugya is going to see. So the Gemara says, look in Rashi. Man tana netinat mayim l'dio v'afal pi shelo gibel adio. Even though he didn't mix it and eat it, zuhi shriatan, that's considered soaking it. V'havelisha dideh, it's considered kneading b'hachi. U'mechayev mishum lash, and he's chayav for kneading. The hamatnitin leka gibul. In the Mishnah, he didn't need it. V'ifligu ba mi be'od yom. The Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel argue if you're allowed to do it before Shabbat. Michlal de b'Shabbat. If you do it on Shabbat, hayav hatatu. He's chayav hatat. Amar of Yosef, Rabbihi. Rav Yosef says this is Rabbi. Why? The Tanya, we have a Mishnah, a Braita like this. Echad noten et hakemach, ve'echad noten et hamayim. By a classic kneading of flour, right? One guy puts in the flour, and another guy, like in the matzah bakery, right? They have the two windows. One guy puts the flour, the other guy puts the water. Echad noten et hakemach, ve'echad noten et hamayim, ha'aharon hayav. The guy that puts the second ingredient is chayav, because now I have a mixture of flour and water, even though it wasn't needed yet. According to Rabbi, that's enough. Once you already put the flour and the water together, that's considered enough of a start of... No, the last guy did everything.
The question was, is it Shnam Shasua?
No, that's not the question. The question is putting water considered lisha, or putting water is not lisha? That's just they're putting the two guys who's chayav. But they're saying the point is even putting water without kneading is lisha. Oh, right? Divrei Rabbi. Rabbi Yossi Omer eno chayav ad sheyigabel. Rabbi Yossi says you're not chayav until you knead it, till you mix it and you knead it into a paste or into a dough. So therefore, we would say the same thing over here. By the Shiriyat Dio, according to Rabbi, just pouring on the water and waiting for it to happen is going to be considered megabel. Whereas according to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, you're not going to be chayav unless you actually get involved and you're doing something. So according to him, there'd be no reason to be gozer on Friday if I didn't need, because anything less is a drabanan. So now it comes out according to that this would be a stam mishnah like Rabbi, right? But I don't know. Amar le Al Mishnah. If Al Mishnah is arguing Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel about putting dior, it means that if you do it on Shabbat, it's an isur d'oraita.
Is the name of the person who's saying Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel.
That's on Friday.
The question, they both agree. The Mishnah in general agrees that on Shabbat it's chayav. So he says, Amar le Abaye, v'dilma ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Yossi, ela bekemach. Maybe Rabbi Yossi only holds that you have to be megabel by kemach de bar gibulhu. That if you need it, it becomes one item. It's considered a bar gibul. Aval dio de la bar gibulhu. So Abaye has an interesting sivara. Says when is Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda machmir that you have to be megabel if being megabel will actually make it into a solid item. Aval hacha dio de la bar gibulhu. Dio never really becomes a gibul. Now understanding what a gibul is and what's not a gibul is a very complicated thing. So a lot of Rishonim and Aharonim spent a lot of time discussing it. What bar gibul is? How do you explain the word bar gibul?
Whether to make it a isa or...
What do you mean? Could be that bar gibul is it holds together. Could be bar gibul means that after you dry it out, it doesn't come apart. Could be a lot of things. But kemach definitely is the epitome of a bar gibul because it makes a dough that holds together and it's fantastic. Right? So we'll say, ela bekemach de bar gibulu. So according to the BOC, that by kemach, that if you knead it all the way, it will become a full gibul. So as long as you didn't go all the way, you haser part of the melacha and you patur. Masha'en came by dio that it's never really going to become a full gibul anyway. So maybe by not kneading it, I'm not haser part of the melacha and I'll be chayav anyway. Ema lechayev, maybe I should be chayav anyway. So he says, and therefore maybe our Mishnah is according to everybody, because even Rabbi Yossi but Rabbi Yehuda would agree by Dior that even though you didn't need it, since needing it's not going to get it too far, it's chayav. Says the Gemara, lo sal kadaitach. No, you can't say that. The Tanya, we have a braita. Ehad noten et ha'efer. One guy puts the ashes. Ve'ehad noten et ha'mayim, and the other guy puts the water. Ha'aharon hayav. The second guy is chayav divrei Rabbi. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ad sheyigabel. Now, efer, ashes, does not megabel, doesn't become a solid. It becomes a mush, but it's not becoming a full thing. Right? So you see that Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda argues even by milk davar, that's not bar gibul. So to an al Mishnah, he would hold that you patur. Says the Gemara, V'dilma mai efer afar. Maybe the efer of our Mishnah, sometimes we play a little loose between efer and afar. Efer is ashes. Afar is dirt. Dirt. You make a nice mud, it becomes a gibul. Dilma mai efer afar debar gibulhu. Says Gemara, V'atanya efer, v'atanya afar. We have two braytot. One of efer and one of afar. Clearly, one is efer, one is afar. Says Gemara, Midi gabe hadadi tanya. Are the two braytot back to back that you have to say this one is efer, this is afar? One brayta, one rabbi said he was loose. He called efer afar. The other one, the rabbi quoted, right? But they're two separate rabbis talking in two different shuls, in 2 different days, in 2 different countries. I don't know. And they're both talking about afar, but by efer maybe not. Sivara would tell me that by efer, since it's not going to get any further, even the biyusi b'rabidam wouldn't be mehayev. So in our Gemara, the Gemara leaves it as a toss-up. Abaye wants to say that a biyusi b'rabiyudah would agree that by something that's not bar gibul, you chayav as soon as you put in the water. And Rav Yosef didn't agree with that. There's a Gemara later on Daf Kuf Mem. What's it on? On Kuf Nun Hey, that where Abaye they knock Abaye out. Over there they knock him out. And the question is that Gemara the main Gemara? And therefore, we'll hold that according to the Biyusi B'Yudah, even something that's not par gibul, you're not hayav ad sheyigabel. Or no, there's a difference between the two Gemarot. The reason why this Gemara didn't come up with that Gemara's conclusion is because there's different levels of bar gibul, and it gets very complicated.
Were there Batraim that were talking about it? Because in that case, we should.
It's the same. It's Abaye and Rav Yosef talking about it. We'll see it in around 5 months from now. We'll see that Gemara. Tana Rabbanan. Potkim mayim legina. You could open up the water into the garden. Erev Shabbat on Friday im hashecha, right before sunset. Umitmalet veholechet kol hayom kulo. And the garden waters the whole Shabbat. Umanihim mugmar tahat hakelim. You're allowed to put mugmar is like an incense underneath the clothing. Umitgamrim veholchim kol hayom kulo. And the incense burns and it makes your clothes smell fresh. This is the old-time Febreze. Umanichim gofrit tahat hakelim. Umitgafrim veholchim kol haShabbat kula. Rashi says gofrit they put tahat klei kesef, under the silver. Shemitzayrim bahem perachim vetzurot beheret. They do engravings or other types of artwork on the silver. Umaashnim begofrit, and then you smoke it with the sulfur. Vehen mashchirin, and then you get that black. You know the black in between the lines of the silver. That's not just. It's not dirt, and it's not tarnishing. They specifically put it. I know one lady. She had a guy cleaning her silver. The guy he brushed it all out. She had to pay to have a guy put it all back in. Right? So that umit gafrim veholchim kol hayom kulo. So you could put that, and it goes all Shabbat. Umanichim kilor al gav ha'ayin. You could put a kilor is like a patch with some medicine on the eye. Ve'isplanit al gabe makah. And you could put a bandage with medicine on top of your makah. Umitrapet ve'olechet kol hayom kulo. And it will heal the whole Shabbat.
Why would you think it was
Because you can't put them on Shabbat. Aval en notnim hitim letoch harechaim shel mayim. But you can't put wheat into a grinder, a water grinder, ela bichdei sheyitchanu mi be'od yom, unless it could grind before Shabbat. So that's the question. Why is the wheat different than everything else that we've been doing over here? My ta'ama, what's the reason? Amar Rabba mipnei shemashma'at kol. Because the grinder, the mill makes a lot of noise. And what? So what if it makes noise? Look in Rashi. Where is it? Shit. He doesn't say. He doesn't say. Because it's making noise. Either it's diluted the Shabbat. מפני שמשמעת את הכל ואף שמלת בשבת ואיכה זילותה. So it's not nice for Shabbat. Amar le Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef said, he told Rabbah, Why are you telling me mipnei zilut de Shabbat, which is a drabanan, v'lei mamor mishum shevitat kelim, which is a deoraita? Say the reason is because they hold that you're not the reason because your kelim are not allowed to work on Shabbat. The Tanya, we have a beraita, uvchol asher amarti alechem tishameru, and in everything that I commanded you, you should watch yourself. Lerabot, what's the bakol coming to include? Lerabot shevitat kelim, to include that even your kelim are not allowed to work on Shabbat. Ela Amar Rav Yosef says, I say better, mishum shevitat kelim. The reason why you're not allowed to put in the wheat into the grinder mill before Shabbat is because your mill is not allowed to work on Shabbat. Nafkamina, that if you're doing something that makes noise without a keli, it will be mutar.
So do we throw that out, meaning?
Very good question. The hashta de amar lebet hillel. Over there it's not a problem because it's a drabanan solely. The hashta.
Does that mean we throw out the whole concept of Shma'at Kol here?
Right, yeah. According to Rav Yosef, yes. V'hashda de amar lebet hillel itlu shevitat kelim. At this point, we're understanding that it's bet hillel. Rashi. Deha al korchach hay mitnita bet hillel. It has to be bet hillel. Midish shari behanach, because they allowed all these other Friday afternoon things. V'katani derehaim asur mishum shevitat kelim, and they still told me that rehaim is asur because of shevitat kelim. So it must be it's bet hillel that holds of shevitat kelim. Right? Deoraita gofrit umugmar maita amasharu. How was it mutar to put the gofrit and the mugmar under your clothing? Maita amasharu mishum delok abid maaseh, because it's passive. The difference between the rehaim and the gofrit is the rehaim, your keli is moving. That's asur by shevitat kelim according to Bet Hillel. But by the mugmar, what? I put the mugmar on my tray. The tray is not actively doing anything, so that's mutar. So we're going to what? The reason of Rashi that says that people can see it. No. Bet Hillel's not. We're not. We threw out that reason right now. According to Rav Yosef, we don't care what people see. The problem is a technical one. Your kelim can't work on Shabbat. So we're differentiating between a keli that's passive, I'm just holding something else that's working, or I'm a rechaim, that I'm going around and around and around. Right? So passive is okay, active is no good. So the mugmar is okay because it's passive. My ta'ama mishum dolo kavid ma'aseh. Unim shel pishtan. My ta'ama sharu haretz. Baking in your oven. Dolo avid ma'aseh. Your oven's passive. The fire is there. It's just hot. Right? It's just resting there. Mitzudot haya ve'of v'dagim deka'avid ma'aseh mai ta'ama sharu. Right? You have a trap, right? You have the trap with the stick, right? The thing comes in, boom, and knocks down the stick. That's active. Right? Why is it mutar? Or the tree that you used to see in the cartoons, right? With the noose and it catches it up. Mai ta'ama sharu. Why is it mutar? Says the Gemara, hatamnami belehi ve'kokuri dela ka'avid ma'aseh. It's a trap. Rashi explains, lechi chika. Right? It's a hook. Bekukuri she'osim salim. They make baskets. Pia ehad rahav pia sheni katzar. They make a basket. One side is thick, and the other side is thin. And as the fish swims through it, it gets caught, and it can't back up. It's passive again. Here, show everybody. Show everybody the picture. Here they have a picture over here also. Lechi v'kikuri. Mitzudot dagim. Here, look over here. You see how the
lechi, there is a matzis.
There's nothing. He swallows.
Move, no?
No, that's nothing. He swims in and he can't swim out. If he tries to back up, they catch him. But the thing is not doing anything. It's staying there passively. It's like the yellow jack trap. Does the yellow jack trap do anything? They go in and they can't find their way out. It's the same thing. The bee trap. You know that bee trap that they have? You put a little honey in the bottom and it's got this whole maze to get in and get out. Okay. The hashda the amar doesn't work so well, but it's in theory. The hashda the amar of Oshaya. Now that Rav Oshaya says amar of Asi, man tana shivitat kilim de oraita bet shamaihi. Rav Oshaya said that the tanav shivitat kilim is bet shamai v'lo bet Hillel, and bet Hillel disagrees. Rashi, V'haderehayim bet Shammai. So the end of the Braita that said that you can't put chitim into rechaim shel mayim is bet Shammai. Bet Shammai lo shani lehu ben heicha de'avid kli ma'aseh ben heicha de'la'avid. Bet Shammai doesn't care if the keli is active or passive. The ha'asri be'unin, meaning not only is the reason for the rechaim because of Shavitat Kelim, but the whole Mishnah's reason is because of Shavitat Kelim. So the reason why you can't be Shoreh Dayo, it's not because of a Gezerah you might come to do it on Shabbat. The reason why you can't be Shoreh Dayo is because your Kelim are involved. And the reason, the pot, passive. And the reason why you can't put the unin in the shopishtan in the tanur is because your oven is working on Shabbat. And all those things in the beginning of the Mishnah, similarly yoreh, is because your pot is working. And your things are working on Shabbat. Right? And Bet Hillel says, we don't hold of Shavitat Kelim. Right? The Bet Shammai, velo Bet Hillel, le Bet Shammai, ben ka'avid ma'aseh, ben de lo ka'avid ma'aseh asur. Whether you're active or passive, it's asur. Because then they heard that Rav Oshaya, they're working it out. Then they got this braita from Rav Oshaya that said that Bet Shammai is the one of Shavitat Kelim. V'hashta de amart lebet Shammai. So we say, lebet Shammai ben ka'abid ma'aseh ben de lo ka'abid ma'aseh asur. Lebet Hillel, according to Bet Hillel, afal gav de ka'abid ma'aseh, even though he's doing an action, Shari, it's mutar. So Bet Hillel disagrees even by active. So according to Bet Hillel, the Rehayim is mutar.
But it doesn't hold probably.
If I believe that Braita is Bet Shammai, why would Bet Hillel say anything? In Rashi's Mahalach it doesn't go. Right? V'hashda de amar de lebet Shammai. Avagav de la avid ma'aseh asur, even though there's no action, it's asur. Ihachi mugmar ve'gofri mai ta'ama sharu. Bet Hillel, we escaped. We said Bet Hillel is only osir if you're doing an action. So we said that's passive. But Bet Shammai is osir even unin shopishtan in the Mishnah, which is passive. So why are they matir the gofrit? Hata mana har'a. You put it on the ground. You're not putting it in a keli. Put the coals on the floor. Put the gofrit, there's no Shavitat Kelim. Rashi, Kigon de manach.
What are you blackening? You're blackening a keli.
That's not doing an action, that's being acted on. Right? Hata manachara. Gigit, it's not even passive. It's not doing a melacha. If you take a picture of me, did I do melacha or did you do melacha? Right?
So in the case of the pot is just holding it.
The pot is doing the ma'aseh.
Before you held the water, before you put in the water, what was it doing? It was holding the ashes.
Yeah.
It's holding. The water is doing the melacha.
We believe that the pot is contributing to. Gigit vener vekedera v'shpod a gigit. When you have a pot and you have a candle and gigit of shechar and a ner and a kedera v'shpod and the skewer, my ta'ama sharu. Why are they allowed? How are you allowed to light Friday night candles? According to Bet Shammai.
Actively burning.
You're passively holding the ner. It's asur. You put your cholent on Friday night for Shabbat morning. The pot is holding it. Should be asur. Bet Shammai shouldn't allow cholent and they shouldn't allow Friday night candles because it's isur doraita. So the Gemara says, "My ta'ama sharu." Bet Shammai demavkar lehu afkure. You have to make your pot hefka before Shabbat. So do all them hefka? No. So Bet Shammai doesn't allow hefka all the time.
Isn't it the reason because you're not
Bet Shammai,
think about it?
No, Bet Shammai says that you're talking a different. That's Bet Hillel, Isaac. With Bet Shammai, they have a different problem. It's an isur d'oraita to let your keli work. What are you going to do? Bet Shammai says we have a tikkun. Everybody is Bedin is mafkir. Everybody's kelim before Shabbat. So do that in all the cases. No, we only do it when it's Tzorech Shabbat.
It's not your candles.
What?
You didn't light your own candles.
Okay, what are you worried about? That's what it is. Okay.
Once you're using the hefka stuff to make
there's a whole Tosfot, there's a whole business that about mafkir lokure. Tosfot asks over here, Avogav the Amar ben Nidarim the Ba'inan Hefker befnei Shelosha Hacha lo Ba'inan the Mistama Mafkar lehu Ve'en lismocha. So Tosfot says we have a problem. There's Shevitat Kelim and there's Shevitat Behema, right? Shevitat Behema is beferush, right? Man yanuch shorecha v'chamorecha. You can't let your animals work on Shabbat. So you're not allowed to rent your animals to a goy for Shabbat because he's going to work with them on Shabbat and it's your animal. So I say, no problem. I know about Bet Shammai's trick. I'll do the Bet Shammai trick for the Bet Hillel trick. I'll be mafki my animal every Friday. No, he doesn't know about it. He doesn't know. I didn't tell the goy. I'll be mafkir in front of my 3 Jewish friends. We're all in the business together. Everybody will be mafkir one animal, so nobody will go and chop the other guy's animals. We'll all be mafkir, and now the goy will what's it called? Now it's mutar. I can make money on Shabbat. Ve'en l'smoch al zav deha chashani mishum delo efshar be'inyan acher. It's impossible. Right, you need to eat on Shabbat. You need to have lights on Shabbat. Okay, so Bet Shammai.
But technically, you can really do it.
Halachically, you should be able to, but they only gave the heter of hefker where it was impossible. They didn't just give it blanketly. What? That's not that. That's considered lo efshar. So we say, "My ta'ama the mafke lo efkure man tana lehad tanu rabanan lo temale isha kedera asisiyot." V'turmusin v'taniach letoch hatanur erev Shabbat im hashecha. Who's the Tana that says that a woman shouldn't fill up a pot of different types of beans, asisiyot and turmusin, and put it in the oven Friday afternoon? Ve'im netanan, if she did l'motzei Shabbat asurim b'chdei shiyas, on motzei Shabbat it's asur, the amount of time it would take to do it. Kayotze bo similarly. Lo yimale nachtom havit shel mayim v'yaniach letoch hatanur erev Shabbat. The nachtom shouldn't fill up his pot with water. Put it in the oven Friday afternoon im hashecha, because he wants to start kneading motzei Shabbat right away. V'im asa ken lemotzei Shabbat asurim b'chdei shi'asu lema Bet Shammai hi v'lo Bet Hillel, because Bet Shammai only allowed you to make hefker on the kelim l'tzorech Shabbat. Over here the guy's doing it for motzei Shabbat, so they didn't allow you to make hefker on the kelim, and that's why he's telling you that it's asur. It's Bet Shammai, not Bet Hillel. Says the Gemara, afilu tema Bet Hillel. Maybe it's Bet Hillel too. Gezerah shema yehate begehalim. It's in a way, it's talking in a way where you might come to stir the coals.
Well, when he stirs the coals, he doesn't want it for later.
What? No, over here he needs to stir the coals because he needs it to last until Motzei Shabbat.
He has a party Saturday night.
He needs it to stay hot, or it takes a long time to cook. So even without stirring, it might not cook.
You might shut down.
You could do
Might shut down, right?
on Friday. Then
If it needs 24 hours, why would he be in my head of the Bishul?
Because it needs 24 hours. And if you don't have, if the heat is no good, it won't work.
maybe leave it on fire.
Right?
I just heard 2 more series.
So the Gemara says, Ihachi mugmar v'gofrit nami ligzor. If you're worried about stirring coals, by mugmar, it's on the coals. By gofrit, it's on the coals. Nami ligzor, let's make a gezerah over there. Hatam lo mahtilu. Over there, he's not going to stir it. The imahte, if he stirs it, salik behu kutra v'kashi lehu. Both of them are sensitive. If I stir them, you're going to get smoke. Your clothes are going to smell like smoke. That's no good. And the smoke kanere ruins the silver. Unin shel pishtan nami ligzor. What about the unin shel pishtan? The flax that he puts in the oven, and the oven is hot. Maybe he's going to stir the coals to make it hotter, to make it go better. Kiven dekashi luhuzika. Over there, if you open up the oven and air gets in, it ruins the process. Lo miglule. He's not going to open the oven. It's like with the cakes. If you open the oven, the cake full, it's going to ruin the flax. I don't have to worry. The guy's afraid to open the oven. Tzemir liyore ligzor. When you're putting the wool in the pot to take the dye, let's be gozer, maybe he'll stir the coals. Nigzor, it's on the fire, yeah, of course.
What is it? Zika?
The zika is the air. If air gets in, it ruins it. You don't open the oven. Oh, try and open the oven when your wife is baking a cake. Lo miglu. Tzemer liyore ligzor. Right? What about the wool in the pot? Amar Shmuel biyore akura. When the pot is off the fire. It's talking that the fire, it was hot, you put it in, and you took it off the fire. Now it's just going to stay nice and hot. Says Gemara, V'neichu shemen megisba. Let's be afraid maybe he's going to open it and stir it so that the dye gets evenly distributed. Rashi, me'apech ba, ubemevushal have a bishul. What exactly Rashi means? Ubemevushal have a bishul, and what? And by dyeing it's considered dyeing. Over here it's still a bishul. You could understand the different ways. Tosfot says Dilma megisba ve'havet soveya, because over here really the bishul already happened. It's coloring it. The akura v'toha. He has it sealed. He has the pot sealed with some sort of a teat so that there's like a heker that he's not going to open it. V'hashta da amarmor. And now that you explained to me the reason why you can't put the asisiyot in the turmusin and all these things is gezerah shemi hate begehalim hay kedeira hayta. If you take a raw pot of food, shari lanuha erev shabbatim hashecha betanura, you're allowed to put it Friday afternoon into the oven. My ta'ama, what's the reason? Kiven dolo hazi leurta, since it won't be ready for tonight anyway. Asuche masach da'atemene v'lo ati lehtuye begehalim. You take your mind off of it and you're not going to stir the coals. Look in Rashi. Hay kedera chayta v'hashta da'amar mor v'hashta da'amar mor da'hanachat kedera lo asira el mishum hitui. That the reason why you're not allowed to put a pot on the oven is only because you might come to stir the coals. Of course, meaning if it was asur because of shivitat kelim or some other reason, you'd be in trouble. But now the problem is the coals. You could put a raw pot right before Shabbat betanur. And it cooks all night. Devadai haita lava da'ata lemichla leurta anher. If he put it on raw, it wasn't to eat it at night. Umishum lemahar, for tomorrow, lo ati lehtuye, he's not going to stir it. Sharei yesh la shahot gadol, it's got plenty of time. Velo dami la asisiyo v'turmusin. Asisiyo v'turmusin, that's for Motzei Shabbat, and we're afraid you're going to stir it. She'en kol alayla vayom dai lahem. That needs 24 hours of cooking. Right. You can put it there on at 2 in the afternoon, it's a problem.
Clothes might go out, you might stir. They might get weak.
We're not chosh. The coals are not going out. They don't go out.
You were just 24 hours.
Not that they're going to go out. They need more heat because over there it needs 24 hours. Over here it needs till tomorrow morning. That'll be fine. Doesn't make a difference.
You might
Not
want
8
it hot,
hours,
you might
maybe
stir the
24
cold.
hours.
What?
If you want it hot tomorrow, you might stir the cold.
They're not goes there. So the Gemara says, Bashil, Ubashil, if it's fully cooked, Shapir Dami, because I don't need any stirring. Bashil velo bashil, if it's a little bit cooked, it's in between, asir, that's asur. V'ishada be'garmahaya, if you threw in, so now you have this in between pot, it's asur. Ishada be'garmahaya, you throw in a raw bone, a raw piece of meat, shapir dami, because now you're not going to use it until the meat is cooked. So therefore, resets the whole thing is mutar. So that's one set of heterim. For a pot, we say if the pot is totally raw and you're putting it to cook, it's going to take till middle of the night to be ready. You're not going to stir it to get it ready. Therefore, it's mutar. Right? Half cooked, no. Throw in a raw piece, mutar.
Does it matter what type of fire it's on? Let's say it's on the gas.
We assume it's the same.
Who is this according to, Rabbi?
According to everybody. According to everybody.
Halakha
lama'aseh. Bet Hillel is good enough. Sounds like Bet Hillel.
2 hours.
The Tanur also has Shema Yechateh.
V'hashta da'amar mor. Tanur was very hot. V'hashta da'amar mor. Kol midi dekashi lezika lo miglu lehu. There's a Tosfot. There's a Tosfot over here that's a big chumrah. Tosfot says, what is it? No, it's not. The second one? Hatam bebisra gumre? No. No. There's a Tosfot. Might not be. Maybe it's in Kira. Tosfot wants to say maybe only by Tanur it's mutar. But okay, the Maaseh they don't hold like that. Ha v'hashta da amar mor. Now that we said by the unin shel pishtan, De kol midi de kashi lezika lo miglule. Anything.
What was the case of shipud? Shipud was putting our roast.
Wait, we're going to get to that. The hashta the amarmor. Now that you said kol midi de kashi lezika lo miglule, anything that the wind is no good for, that the opening of the oven is no good for, lo miglule is not going to open it. Hai bisra de gadya. This basar of a gedi, of a young goat, vesharik, and the oven is sealed, shapir dami, it's mutar, because you have two heterim. A, it's sharik, so that's a heker not to open it. And B, if you open it, we know that the air is going to make the meat hard and it's no good.
In the case where it's bashil v'lo bashil.
No. Because by meat, when you're roasting, the heter of kedera chayta doesn't apply because the roasting meat gets cooked fast. Doesn't take 6 hours. It's ready by the night. It'll be ready. So the whole heter of kedera chayta doesn't apply to roasting. It only applies to cooking.
So I need liquid.
Cooking in a pot. You're cooking in a pot, challah, that applies. You're cooking something on the open fire, it doesn't apply. Right? V'hai bisra de gadya v'sharik shapir dami. The barha, if it's a big ayil, well, it's not a Torah, it's ayil, Rashi says. Ayil gadol, lo kashi lezika. So he's not afraid. V'ati legluya pia tanir, litol kisuyo v'lachtot. He's not afraid of stirring it. The barha v'lo sharik. If it's from a big mutton and it's not sealed, asur, because now you have two down, right? When you have two ups, it's sharik, so you have a heker, and it's kashi lezika, so it's mutar.
Well, that's the reason why it's sealed.
No. Rashi's not learning like that. Rashi's learning sealing is a heker, not to open it. When it's mutton, which is not kashi lezika, and it's not sealed, so you don't have a heker, it's asur. The gadya velo sharik, the barha v'sharik. One up and one down. Right? Rav Ashi shari. Rav Ashi says it's mutar. Rav Yirmiyah midifti asur. He says no, you need two up to be mutar. Ul Rav Ashi de shari. Hatanya en solim basar. But hatanan it should be. En solim, you're not allowed to roast basar, meat. Batzel, onions, ubetza, and eggs. In order that it should be roasted before Shabbat. What do you mean? It's l'chaora, even though it's barha, it should be mutar. So we answer, hatam de barha velo sharik. The meat over there is barha meat, and it's not sealed, so it's two down. Everybody agrees it's asur. It has to be ma'achal ben durusai before Shabbat. That's the first lashon. Ika da amri, others say, the gadya, if it's kid meat, ben sharik, ben lo sharik, shapir dami. It's one up, it's okay. I don't care if it's sealed or not. The bar hanami v'sharik, if it's the ayil meat, the big sheep meat, and it's sealed, shapir dami, because it's one up. Ki pligi, when they argue, the barha v'lo sharik. It's ayil meat and it's not sealed, two down. Rav Ashi shari, v'Rav Yirmiyah mitifti asir. Rav Ashi says it's mutar, v'Rav Yirmiyah says it's asur. Ul Rav Ashi de shari, v'hatenan en sulim basar b'atzelu b'etza, ela kedeshi yitzolu mi be'od yom. You need b'achal ben drusai, we gozer. Hatam bebisra agumre. It's talking that he put the meat on the coals. So Rashi learns bisra agumri she'enu betanur ta'afilu kisui leka umuchan la'afoch bo v'lachtot. He says as long as it's in the oven, already there's like a heket. It's closed. It's out of sight. I don't see it so much. There's something there to stop me from stirring the coals. Mashenkin, this guy, he's got open coals outside and he has meat on top of it. It's too easy. That's when it's asur, when the coals are outside. The Rambam learns the whole sugya differently. I have to see it later. So the Gemara says, Amar Avina, Hai kira haya, this raw kusa, shapir dami. You're allowed to put it in the oven. Kivin the kashi lezika, since the wind is no good for it, kibisra de gadya dami. So that seems like he's not learning like the second lashon, where anything is mutar, has to be kashi lezika. Bet Shammai omrim. Bet Shammai says, en mochrim, we said en mochrim, velo to'anim, ve'en to'anim, ve'en magbi'im alav, ele kedei sheyagil lemakom karov. Tanu Rabbanan. Bet Shammai. No, only the kusa. Yeah. Tanu Rabbanan. No, it's not kashi lezika. Tana Banan, Bet Shammai Omrim, Lo Yimkor Adam Heftzol Lenochri. A person is not allowed to sell his objects to a goy. V'lo yashilenu, and you can't lend it to him. V'lo yalvenu, you can't make a loan to him. V'lo yiten lo b'benatay, you can't give him a present. Ele kedeh sheyagia lebeto. He has to be able to get home.
Why even if he gets home, should we not kill him?
It's not yours.
No. Lo yashilenu could be I'm lending him money. I don't know, I'm lending him something that there's no melacha to do with it. I'm lending him a mattress. All right? Rashi says the difference between yashilenu, she'ela is davar ha'chozer b'ayin, halva'a is something you give and he gives you back something else. Tosafot says, Tosafot asks you a question, Isaac. V'lo yashilenu k'dei l'betov, lo ma'ari bekelim de'asu lebet shammai mishum shevitat kelim. If that's the case, afilu b'rvi'i u'b'chamishi nami, ela kegon haluk, you're lending him a shirt, u'sh'ar dvarim. V'ta'ama mishum hotza'ah. V'nir'eh kishlucho, it looks like you sent him, you want him to carry. אלא כדי שיגיע ראשי הנוכרי לביתו מבעוד יום. ואף אגב דבדידי כתרח, even though he's carrying for himself, he wants to use your stuff on Shabbat. מחמירים בית שמאי דמחלף בשלוחו. People will think you sent him to carry, and now they'll also send goyim to carry things for them on Shabbat. ולא ישן. בית הלל אומרים כדי שיגיע לבית הסמוך לחומה. He doesn't have to get to his house, he has to get to the next city. Rabbi Akiva says, no. Kedei sheyetze mipetach beto. As long as he left your house before Shabbat started, it's enough. Amar.
What's the city? The city can be even further away than
No, then the goy's house. He has to get to the city where he lives.
He doesn't need to go all the way to his house.
Aywa. Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Hen devrei Rabbi Akiva. Hen devrei Bet Hillel. Rabbi Akiva is not arguing on Bet Hillel. Lo bar Rabbi Akiva ela lefaresh divrei Bet Hillel. Look in Rashi. Hen divrei. Lo bar Rabbi Akiva lahlok al Bet Hillel. Ela lahlok al Tana ben machlokto. He's coming to argue on the Tana who was explaining Bet Hillel differently. Shamar ali be Bet Hillel bayit samuch lechoma. He has to get to the house near the wall. Ubar Rabbi Akiva lomar lo amru Bet Hillel ken. That's not what Bet Hillel said. Bet Hillel says you have to get to outside your house. Tana Rabbanan, another mahloket like this. Bet Shammai Omrim, Bet Shammai says, Lo yimkor adam himtzo lenochri. A person should not sell his chametz to a goy, ela imken yodea bo sheyichle kodem haPesach, unless he knows that it's going to finish before Pesach. Divrei Bet Shammai. That would ruin a lot of stuff. O Bet Hillel Omrim, Bet Hillel says, Kol zman shemutar lochlo mutar lo mochro. You could sell it to him as long as you're allowed to eat it. Right. Rabbi Yehuda. What?
Bet Shammai cares.
What does Bet Shammai care? If I'm not mistaken.
There's a Rashi on it. He says you have to get rid of it from the world. Doesn't matter. It doesn't be out of the world. קודם שיבוא הפסח דקסברי מצווה עליו לבערו מן העולם שלא שיהיה קיים.
That's Rashi in Pesachim. Kuta habavli notnim bo hametz. Rabbi Yehuda omer kuta habavli v'kol mine kuta hasul u'mochro lamed yom kodem haPesach. What? Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi says kuta habavli notnim bo hametz. You put hametz in it. Kedamnim ve'eno asul le'ochlo yachad. You don't eat it one time. Ela letbol bo. Ve'eno kalei ad zman merubeh sheloshim yom. Mi shematchilin ledrosh b'ilchot Pesach. Hala azarat Pesach alav. So l'chaora it's a davar pele that Rabbi Yehuda should hold like Bet Shammai. Rabbi Yehuda is a student of Rabbi Akiva. So there are Rishonim that want to explain that he doesn't hold like Bet Shammai. But Rabbi Yehuda, no, I think it's Ravad that says that Rabbi Yehuda holds Kutach Habavli is a signature item. When you buy Kutach from Yehuda, it's Yehuda's Kutach. So that you're going to come into the Goy's house on Pesach and you're going to see him dipping in Yehuda Kutach. You'll think, must be Yehuda's been selling Kutach on Pesach. So it's a Marit Ayin for the seller because it's a signature item. It's not noodles.
If you were such a bakir on my signature item, you would tell that wasn't fresh.
No, Kutach gets better with, it doesn't need to be fresh. It's fermented, Yehuda. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. What?